Ferrari worked hard to attempt to tackle the porpoising problem, which is the bouncing effect of the single-seaters that begins in a straight line and grows in speed as the speed increases. The problem first arose on the F175 vehicle when the drivers increased their speed, but it gradually improved with adjustments to the floor and setup, but it must be reviewed to be rectified conclusively. Is this porpoising problem something that Ferrari will overcome finally in the future? Stay tuned till the end of the video to learn more about it. The situation has touched nearly all of the teams, and it is up to the specialists to discover the best remedy for the upcoming season. The Ferrari team principal, Mattia Binotto, stated that the problem had been underestimated. Images of Charles Leclerc physically bouncing on the track with the F175 have gone viral, but Maranello has already made the appropriate countermeasures to address what is an aerodynamic problem that cannot be fixed in the wind tunnel. The bouncing off ground effect is a legacy of the 1980s that has resurfaced now that the 50mm floor has been removed from Formula 1 cars and the cars have returned to touching the asphalt in search of the lowest height from the ground to generate the maximum aerodynamic load in the Venturi channels. Jean-Claude Migeot, an aerodynamicist for Renault, Tyrrell and Ferrari, lived during the wing car heyday and recalls porpoising vividly. The problem is aerodynamic in nature, adds the French aerodynamicist, because it is caused by the elastic properties of the flow which affect the efficacy of the suspension. Because the stationary forces grow to the square of the speed and the vertical thrust is significantly greater than the spring recall capacity, there is no need to operate on the suspension setup. Suspensions cannot be strengthened because they are already quite rigid, therefore you must rely on the floor's aerodynamics. The solution is straightforward. Aerodynamic research is governed by very rigorous laws that restrict activity in the wind tunnel. The airflow may reach a maximum speed of 50 meters per second or 180 kilometers per hour. Because this number is too low to cause porpoising in the wind tunnel, the phenomenon has not fully revealed itself. As a result, the answer shifts from simulation to CFD. Using data obtained on the track, the teams can learn how to eliminate bouncing. The teams attempt to interfere in two ways: racing the car off the tarmac, some cars go 30mm over the intended value, or unloading the floor using apertures. In the first situation, the loss of load becomes too significant and has a significant influence on performance, but in the second case, a little aerodynamic efficiency is lost, but the impact on lap time is less severe. It is hardly surprising, however, that the clean flooring that arrived in Barcelona was riddled with fractures, cuts and hollows in an attempt to reduce bouncing. Ferrari has installed a freshly designed floor in front of the rear wheel with a circular aperture under which a curved flap has developed, and the contours of the trailing edge in front and behind the opening have altered. The Maranello specialists have also arranged for the placement of sights to be measured with a camera, with just the bending of the floor contributing to the occurrence of porpoising. There were no alterations made on the racetrack, but there was the introduction of a new solution that possibly predicts themes that should have been seen in Bahrain testing. Mercedes, for example, limited itself to installing two tie rods on the W13, one to secure the floor in front of the rear wheel and the other to keep the extractor from bending. The bouncing issue was addressed head-on, and as a result, the automobiles in Sakhir will vary considerably with potential answers. During pre-season testing, most F1 teams experience porpoising. In Bahrain though, Red Bull and Ferrari look to be handling the problem more efficiently than Mercedes. What is porpoising? In light of the new technical regulations introduced this season, one of the biggest changes on the 2022 F1 cars has been the switch over from body downforce to a ground effect philosophy. This approach means that downforce is predominantly generated by airflow under the car, sucking it down to the ground. However, a side effect of the philosophy is that, at higher speeds, the air flowing underneath the car can stall. This is caused by there simply not being enough space for the air to flow cleanly through the space between the ground and the floor of the car. If this happens, the floor stops generating downforce and the car springs back up to its normal ride height. However, it immediately starts accumulating air again and is pushed back down, only for the cycle to repeat. This is something that can be spotted by the car bouncing or porpoising, as it has become known, down the straights. The effect is as uncomfortable for the drivers as it looks, with Lance Stroll admitting that it rattles your brain quite a bit. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez might have less of a headache though, as Red Bull seems to now have the issue much more under control. Recent upgrades on the RB18 have helped. Is Ferrari taking their cue from McLaren? Another team that seems to have been brilliantly combating the problem of porpoising is Ferrari, despite the images of Charles Leclerc bouncing down the straights in Barcelona. On the second day in Bahrain, the F175 featured a revised floor, featuring a long, knife-shaped profile on the side. As the profile rises a little towards the inside, a long groove is created between the raised edge and the bodywork. That knife-shaped profile is reinforced with some metal clips that are often seen on the front wings as well, jumping from element to element. These clips are needed to counteract deformation at high speed, as this can weaken the effect. The profile ends in an area where there used to be a sort of finger to regulate the airflow in front of the rear wheels, but that finger has been missing since the second day of testing. It is not incorrect to say that this solution, which should have the same effect as Red Bull's floor, was inspired by a similar device featured on the floor of the McLaren, a team that seemed to have porpoising fully under control already in Barcelona. Do you think Ferrari handles the problem of porpoising perfectly as they should? Leave your views, questions and thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.